Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. I want to talk in this video about Alexander Usyk. Now, I'm going to start off briefly talking about the fight from Saturday night, and then I want to talk about what options he's got from here, where he can possibly go from here. So, first of all, let's start with the fight. An exceptional performance, a masterclass, really. Now, he just fought against an unbeaten, unified world champion, top-level opponent in his own country, in his own city. Well, I don't know if his own city, but in Moscow, he's Russian. Schooled him really for 12 rounds. Now, did Gassiev even win a round? Without watching the fight back again, I don't really think he did. A couple of them were close, but it was just a masterclass from Usyk. Started off very, very good use of the jab, great movement. He outboxed him, out-landed him, out-maneuvered him, out-thought him, out-everythinged him, really. You know what I mean? In the jab, like the southpaw jab, was very, very quick. He's getting some good left hand, straight left hands as well. Very good counter right hook from the front hand. His feet were brilliant. Now, I think the main problem that Gassiev had, his feet just weren't quick enough. He couldn't close the distance. He couldn't really get anywhere near Usyk. He did land a few good body shots here and there, but Usyk was able to sort of like roll with them and, get himself out of danger well enough. So he's got that, as I say, that really quick jab, and he can counter with combinations. So when Gassiev did try and land a big punch, he made him pay with about 4 or 5 punches. Switches it up, body, head, left, right. Now his feet are probably his best asset. he's very good. He's got very good punch selection. He's very accurate, and he's very sharp with his punches. But his feet are the real asset that he has, as I see it. He's got very good efficiency with his footwork. Like the way he positions himself is very clever. He's always in a good position where it suits him. But he's also very quick on him, so he can cover distance very quickly. He's very, very agile. And it's not agile, like off balance kind of agile, like he'll just be leaping around. No, he'll sort of spring back and forth, but do it very, very well balanced. Left to right, back and forward. He'll pivot off round to his right, and he's just constantly keeping Gassiev guessing, keeping him off balance. And Gassiev just, every time he did try to throw something, he'd get countered with about 3 or 4 punches, get beat into the punch. He didn't really know where they were coming from, and he was just getting made to pay with all of it. Now he did catch, Gassiev did catch him with a couple of good punches, a couple of good body shots, I say. They caught him with a really good right hand, there's a kind of cross between a right cross and a right hook, like short, but you felt it, and Gassiev's got a serious punch on him. So he took that. Luckily for Usyk, I think it was at the end of maybe like the 4th round or the 5th round, something like that. But he took it pretty well. It didn't really seem to affect you. You could feel it. You knew it was a hard punch. And if that had been early in the round, maybe that would have been, maybe Gassiev would have won that round at least. But he didn't really show any signs of being particularly hurt. But he did sort of swivel him round and then kind of get him in like a full Nelson and then kind of push him back to the ropes. So even when he's getting hit with a hard punch like that, he's still got the composure and he's still got the brain to do the right thing and not just stand there and start trying to slug it out with him. As far as I can remember, that was the only time. As I say, he did get hit with a couple of good punches, but that was the only time when you got hit with something that could have landed him in trouble, and he dealt with it very, very well. So he was possibly a bit lucky that it was right at the end of the round, but he just sort of strolled back to his corner, got back up. He didn't really see any signs of it having any effect. His legs looked fine. So, when he does get hit occasionally, he's able to take it. Possibly he looked a little bit vulnerable to the body. I think a couple of times when he did get hit, there was a couple of times he got hit with like a nice left hook. Gassiev came forward, get left hook to the body, and he kind of complained to the ref about it. I don't really know what the problem was, but the ref stopped it. I don't know if he sort of got him on the back or what, or he's saying it's a bit low. But yeah, that was the only bit of success that Gassiev had. Now Gassiev, as we know, he fought against it in his last fight, Dorticus, who's a very, very good, skillful fighter, like Cuban, hard punching, quick, slick fighter, and he knocked him out in the 12th round. That was a very good fight. Fought out 16 fight Denis Lebedev. He's fought some good. He's a unified world champion, unbeaten. Very, very good fight. Very, very hard puncher, and he just looked like an amateur in there, really. He looked like he didn't really have any ideas. He just looked like Usyk basically just sort of bamboozled him with his boxing skill from the start. and then when he did need to, he could sort of put it on him a little bit as well. Now, possibly he could have stepped on the gas and tried to take him out, but he didn't really need to. He was just so comfortable in there, just outboxing him. I say I don't think Gassiev really won a round. So for me, that was an exceptional performance. Now, Usyk, I mean, literally, was it like 15 fights? Now, that fight, he sort of to become undisputed cruiserweight world champion in Moscow. So let's go back a little timeline. I first saw him, that I can remember, the first time I remember seeing him was when I think he won his first world title against I can't remember, Glowacki, the Polish bloke. I don't know how you pronounce it. But he was considered like the number one from what I can remember at that time in the cruiserweight. Very, very good fighter. Went and beat him on the road in Poland, having had about I don't know how many fights, maybe like 12 fights at that point. Now Poland, I imagine it being a bit like England in terms of the atmosphere. Basically, it's like a very hostile. A load of nutters, basically, like quite a bunch of sort of hooligans, quite an intimidating atmosphere, kind of like England sort of style. He went there, didn't faze him at all, won that, looked very good in the process. Now straight away he's then gone over to America and defended his title. Then he goes over to Latvia again to fight someone in their hometown, Bradis. Very, very good fight in my opinion. Won then to become a unified world champion. He then goes to Moscow to fight against Gassiev, another unbeaten unified world champion, and just sort of schools him for 12 rounds. And obviously being from Ukraine, going to Moscow, now I watched it, the atmosphere sounded like pretty good, it sounded like quite intense in there. Now obviously like there's the political situation with Ukraine and Moscow, I doubt he was made to feel that welcome there. It must have been a very, very intimidating atmosphere. So when you're talking about people who are going on the road, just literally sort of beating everyone there. But I mean, I can't think, if you can think of anyone, let me know. But I can't think of anyone really who's literally sort of going Poland, beating a Polish guy there, America to fight an American, Latvia to fight a Latvian, Moscow to fight a Russian. I mean, he's just taking a piss, really. It reminds me of like when I was a little kid, and I used to imagine I was like playing football for England or something. I was thinking like in the quarterfinals, I'm sort of in my back garden, like, kicking a ball around, like. The quarterfinal was going to play against France. I score a hat trick. Then you play against Brazil in the quarterfinals. I scored a winning goal. Then you beat Argentina in the semi-finals when I score another hat trick. Then you beat Germany like 2-0 and I sort of dominate. Do you know what I mean? It's literally like he's sort of scripted like a perfect career path where he's just taking the absolute piss, just going everywhere, beating everyone in their hometown and just absolutely schooling them. So, you know what I mean? This is exactly the kind of thing that I like to see, and it's almost like a sort of Hollywood story. Do you know what I mean? If you're literally just scripting, like, how could this possibly be the best it could be? And that's what he's doing. So massive respect to him. They're talking about him now, maybe fighting Tony Bellew. Now, I like that. I like that fight. That would obviously take place in England as well. That would be another one to add to his record, like going to fight. If he fought Tony Bellew in England, I mean, they filled out Goodison Park for was it Makabu? No one really knew who he was. So why could they not do the same thing for Usyk? Now, I'd be very surprised if Bellew does take that fight. He's saying that he wants to on Twitter, and if he does, fair play to him. But I mean, I wouldn't have expected it before then. If he does now live up to his word, then obviously take my hat off to him. Eddie Hearn says that the talks are going to start. So let's see. I mean, Tony Bellew, for me, has had a good career, and he is a good fighter. And I actually do quite like the fight. I don't give Bellew much of a chance in the fight, but I think it's still an interesting one. But that's what I'd like to see from Bellew. I don't really like this style of him just kind of, going around who's injured, who's inactive, who's an easy target, big name, but an easy target, like he did like David Haye. Obviously, he knew David Haye was just a shell of himself, fought him. I mean, I thought David Haye was going to beat him easily the first time. So, fair play to him, he did that. But still, he took that fight on knowing that David Haye was, you know, in a very, very poor physical state. Then he was like calling out Andre Ward, knowing full well Andre Ward has been out for a very long time, possibly with injuries as well himself. Plus he's smaller. Andre Ward is, you know, just went up to light heavyweight. You can say, is he like a sort of natural light heavyweight? Maybe. I mean, he's either a sort of, at best he's like an average size light heavyweight, whereas Tony Bellew was far too big for light heavyweight. He's gone to cruiserweight, so he's someone who's smaller. Very inactive, and, you know, past his best. I mean, there was a great performance the last fight against Kovalev, but still, generally speaking, I think Andre Ward is past his best. But he's still a massive name, isn't he? So, I don't get me wrong, I'd see that fight as well, but I'd have much more respect for Bellew fighting someone like Usyk, who's a cruiserweight, who's active, who's at the top of his game. Also, he's trying to fight Tyson Fury. Again, Tyson Fury, a big name, on paper, a very impressive name to have on your record. But again, he's been out for ages. He's lost a load of weight. You know, it's not really a time where Tyson Fury is the Tyson Fury that we know. So if he does fight Usyk now, if he's serious about it, then fair play to him. All is forgiven. As far as I'm concerned, that will basically prove me wrong and a lot of people who are just saying that he's just, you know, going round and sort of looking for easy touches. Now, if the fight does get made, I think that Usyk will win easily, either by a wide unanimous decision or stoppage. Now, I don't really see what Bellew really can do better than anyone that Usyk has fought recently. I don't think he's as good as Gassiev. I don't really see he doesn't hit anywhere near as hard. He's not as strong. He's got more experience, I suppose. He's possibly got quicker feet. I mean, that was the real difficulty for Gassiev in that fight, was the difference in the foot speed that Usyk had. So that's something that Tony Bellew would have over Gassiev, and I'd say he does have a lot more experience, but I don't see him as a harder fight for Usyk at all. I don't really see him as posing much of a threat. I don't think he's better than Bradis, the fighter he fought before then. I think Tony Bellew looked quite good against David Haye. At cruiserweight, he looked quite good against the people he fought, but I think this bloke's just something else, different level. I think I don't really see what advantages Bellew has, to be honest. He's not physically, like, he's not anywhere near that level of being an athlete. He's not as quick on his feet. He doesn't have a better punch selection. He doesn't have a better ring IQ. I don't think he hits harder. I don't think he's tougher. I don't really see what he brings to the table. I don't see what advantage he has. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to write him off, because I've written him off in the past, and he's surprised me. He is better than he looks from the outside, I think, Bellew. He does have a good boxing brain. He's got a good boxing skill, and he does have a good will to win. And he's quite good. He can sort of rough you up a little bit, but I don't really see him being able to do anything to Usyk, to be honest. I think that if he does take that fight, he'll get beaten from pillar to post. I'd quite like to see that. If Usyk wants to move up to heavyweight, which is what he's talking about, I'd like to see that at heavyweight. That would be a good fight for him to kind of introduce himself to that division, get accustomed to the weight. Maybe from a sort of legacy perspective, it would make more sense fighting at a cruiserweight. But I don't think Bellew would really be up for doing that. And if Usyk's talking about coming up to heavyweight anyway, then that would be quite a good one to introduce himself to the division. Now, in terms of how Usyk could do against like the top people at heavyweight, I think he'd potentially do very well. I mean, if you look, I mean, okay, the top two people are going to say, obviously, like Wilder and Joshua are the two, the pinnacle of the division. People are going to really say, can he beat those two? Now, I'd like to see him have a few more fights in that division, but I mean, to be honest, I think I'd definitely be very interested to see him against both of them. I think against Wilder, particularly, I think he'd have quite a good chance. Now, he's obviously much more skillful than Wilder. The advantages that Wilder would have, because in terms of weight, they're not really that much different, I don't think. I mean, Usyk would have to sort of pack on a little bit more muscle. We'd have to see how that would affect him. Would that slow him down a little bit? Would that kind of take a spring out of his step slightly? If it did, then we'd have to see. Because in terms of the way he moves around now and his mobility, then I'd give him quite a good chance. But if he sort of lost a little bit of that going up, then I don't know. Because Wilder is not a big heavyweight, so he's tall, but in terms of sheer weight. Now, if he was fighting someone like Joshua, I could see Joshua imposing his size on him and being able to walk through him as such, but just make that size and just physical mass a difference. Do you know what I mean? If he's on him and he's kind of leaning on him and he's just kind of pushing him about, he's a big lump, Joshua. He's not just tall, but he's physically big. Wilder, he isn't. No, I'm not saying he's not strong, but he doesn't fight that kind of style. He doesn't have that sheer body mass. I don't think he'd be able to rough Usyk up like that. That's not his style in any case. You don't really see him doing that. He's more of a sniper. He's quite patient. The main difference, the difficulty I would see for Usyk against like Wilder, obviously taking aside the punching power, but the reach. He does have a good reach, Wilder, and although he's got poor movement and balance, coordination, he is still very quick on his feet, and he can kind of make up for it a little bit with just his sheer size. So you see him against someone like Gassiev, and he's able to really just, he can like sort of slip a punch or block a punch and come back with a big combination. And he can hit him with a jab. And he'd be against someone like Wilder, who's much rangier than that. It would be difficult, even with his quick feet. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a challenge that he couldn't possibly overcome, but it certainly would be a different kettle of fish. Someone like Wilder, who does have quick feet, does have long range, does have quick reflexes, and as we know, does have a lot of power. And he's quite tough as well. Like he sort of proved that in the Ortiz fight. He's quite tough, quite resilient. So it'd be very interesting. But you see, like the Spilka fight. Now Spilka is a left southpaw. He's sort of quite quick on his feet. Similar size to Usyk, and he was giving Wilder all kinds of trouble. Now, okay, he got knocked out in the end. He got knocked out badly, but he's no Usyk, like nowhere near in terms of skill. So if he was able to give Wilder those kind of problems, I've seen a lot of people who are much lesser fighters than Usyk give real problems to Wilder in the past. So potentially he could do the same thing. It's not like Wilder didn't hit Spilka loads of times before he knocked him out. He hit him with quite a few right hands. It's not like he literally sort of hits you up, boom, that's all he's got to do. He's not firing a gun at you. Yeah, he's got a hard punch, but I don't think it's a case of Usyk literally needs to avoid getting hit with a single punch. Do you know what I mean? Now, he took the right hand away from Gassiev. Really, he got hit with a couple, but that was obviously quite an effective part of the game plan. Gassiev, big punching, like very good, like right hand, was unable really to land it hardly at any times at all throughout the fight. So could he do the same thing to Wilder? Quite possibly. I mean, he's used to avoiding punches from people who are quicker than Wilder. Wilder's quick for a heavyweight, but Usyk's been fighting people who are like smaller than Wilder, quicker on their feet, lighter. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I'd pick him to beat Wilder right now, but in terms of like the top two in the division, I don't think that's a ridiculous notion at all. I mean, a lot of people are just saying, oh no, he'd have no chance, too big, too strong. I'm not sure he is too big. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Wilder was talking about going down to cruiserweight. I'm not sure he weighed for the Luis Ortiz fight, but he's certainly not some big unit like Klitschko or Joshua in terms of body mass. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I'd like to see him have a couple of fights at heavyweight first, but that's a fight that stylistically I think he'd have quite a good chance of winning. In terms of Joshua, yeah, maybe as well. I mean, Joshua is a bit slower than Wilder. I mean, in terms of like I'm not sure who's more predictable. Joshua's more, he fights with more of a sort of rhythm and more of a kind of constant, obvious pattern. Whereas Wilder's a bit more erratic, but at the same time, you know what's coming. You know he's got that big right hand. I mean, you're not really worrying about like a left hook or him working the body or anything like. You pretty much know what the danger is coming from him, even if it's difficult to really read his patterns of movement. Someone like Joshua, that would be interesting because Usyk is obviously a much better mover. He's at the moment he is anyway. I mean, he will be anyway. But like, how much of that will be taken out if he does sort of pack on too much muscle? But he's still very, very quick on his feet. Very intelligent. He's a southpaw as well. I could definitely see him giving Joshua a lot of problems with the movement. The problem is, I just think like Joshua, he's more the kind of person that will get on top of fight on the inside. And I think that would give Usyk a lot of problem if he could sort of close that distance and just use his sheer physical size combinations. Now I think he could avoid that sort of sniper right hand from Wilder more effectively than he could avoid like those sort of combos that AJ unleashes. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see him at heavyweight. There's lots of other good fights he can have as well. I wouldn't like to see him rush straight into those kind of fights, but I'd like to see him fight against Bellew. And then from there, I don't know, let's get a gauge on how he looks against a couple of like big, strong, tall opponents, and then see who goes from there. As for Gassiev, I mean, he got completely outboxed, but he's 24 years old. He's just fought a very top level against like one of the best fighters in the world right now. He just beat a very good opponent in his last fight. So he'll come back. He's 24 years old. There's still a lot of good opponents in, like Brady's obviously there. I'm not sure who else. There's you've got quite a few up and coming cruiserweights. So he potentially could go up to heavyweight as well later on. I don't think there's any rush for him, but yeah, but he can come back from this as well. Anyway, I think I've waffled on for long enough. So let me know what you lot think, and thank you very much for watching.